What is happening, my friends, my friends, my friends? Hey, Empower Network family, how are you doing tonight? It is Monday night. I have to always rethink that whole thing, like what night it is. But anyway, guys, hey, we just want to welcome you tonight. I want to personally welcome you tonight. I know this is mainly targeted towards our affiliate base, and so you may be brand new here. And let me check. It is Monday. And I didn't have my thing turned off. Okay, we're good now. And so, guys, had it playing in the background. I just wanted to watch myself. No, but anyway, so if you're brand new to Empower Network, maybe you've been around for a little bit, maybe you've been out of the loop, we wanted to hit you guys with some urgent updates tonight. So what I want you to do is make sure that you hang tight, have pen and paper handy in case you want to take some notes and things like that as the night progresses. We're going to have a couple other of our leadership legacy mastermind members come on here in just a moment and just share some excitement with you, and then we're going to break it off to David Wood so he can break off some updates for you. And so if you were here last week, you heard some really cool stuff, and we're going to really expand on that tonight, okay? But my name is Michael Martin. I'm coming at you from Cartersville, Georgia. It's just this, they call it the sticks from all the people that visited me last week. They were like, man, you are all the way out here in the sticks. It's really not that far from Atlanta. I'm really close to Atlanta. We were just on the other side of Atlanta to get here, so it was a long way. But anyway, so I'm here, and I started here in Empower Network probably a little over 4 years ago. And since then, we've been able to create some pretty awesome results, but it wasn't always like this. When I started, well before I got started in Empower Network, I had a traditional business, a restaurant. It was a family business. We lost it. We had to file a bankruptcy. We lost our home, and just a lot of debt just chasing us around. And so that's when we found Empower Network. We were in the middle of the foreclosure, middle of the bankruptcy. Everything was falling apart. And I came on the internet with really no know-how of this whole internet business thing. You know, I was just kind of like, just like some of you, if you're brand new, you're sitting here going, all this stuff looks really like foreign to me. I don't really understand some of the lingo they're using. And trust me, it's okay. I was there too. But since then, by just hunkering down, learning how systems work, and learning how to, important word here, write this one down if you haven't written it down, since I think I said it last week too, leverage. When you learn how to leverage systems in your business, things just take off. And the cool thing is what Dave has been putting together, and it's some things that we've kind of had in the past, but we're really putting them together really nicely now, that's going to help you leverage your business a whole lot better. And if you're brand new and you're going, well, I don't really know what better means, just know that that means awesome, okay? And so today I was just thinking, they asked me to come on and speak tonight, I was just thinking, you know, I tell my story a lot. I don't ever want to let go of that, but I haven't really talked about some things that are going on in our life right now that this business has given us the ability to do. It was so funny because tomorrow, I was talking to my wife, I totally forget. She has to send me calendar reminders because we have a doctor's appointment. She's actually pregnant with twins, and she's due in probably about six-ish weekish. We're not sure. With twins, you never know when they're going to pop. They're just, you know, she looks like she's ready now. But I'm ready. I can tell you that. But it was a long road to get to be able to have children. We just had a lot of complications and things like that, mainly on my end. And it's been tough, but I can say because of this business, we've been able to not only pursue it financially, because, you know, that is a big burden, you know, trying to go through any sort of infertility, any sort of things like that, IVF, all that stuff costs a lot of money. And, you know, that good old health insurance ain't going to touch it. So we've definitely gone through that, but the financial side's been taken care of because of the breakthroughs that we've had in this business. But on the other side of it, that doctor's appointment tomorrow is one that I get to go to with her, and I missed one, and I think I was in Bolivia on a mission trip. That's the only reason I've missed any doctor's appointments with her, and that's kind of like, to me, that's freedom, being able to be there with my family, for my family, as we go through life things together. And I tell you that not to brag, but I tell you that because that's the potential. That's what you have in your hands. And when you start implementing the stuff that when Dave starts implementing the stuff that he's going to start implementing in your business, it's going to create that leverage and that freedom that man, it chokes me up, man. I get I get speechless when it comes to this stuff because there's no words that I can put on that. There's no value that I can put on that. So I hope you're feeling me tonight. I hope everybody's doing good tonight. I can't really see the chat because I've shut that tab real quick when I heard the noise coming from the background. So, but anyway, it's an honor to be here tonight. I can't wait for you guys to hear more about what's going on and some of the updates and the results that we're already seeing from the stuff that's being implemented right now. So I'm going to pass it to one of our awesome Legacy Mastermind members. I'm going to pass it to my boy, John Oakes, and let him share a little bit with you guys as well. You there, John?
Cool. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, absolutely. Can you mute the microphone, Michael? I think I'm getting feedback from you. There we go. Cool. Yeah, much better. All right, cool. Awesome to have you guys here with us tonight. My name is John Oakes. Just like Michael said, our backgrounds are very similar. I think, in fact, we got started within like 4 or 5 days of each other inside Empower Network. And this was back in 2012, October. And since that time, both of us coming out of just being under a mountain of debt, being in a bad situation, foreclosure, losing businesses, all this kind of stuff, we were able to create tremendous success, just like Michael and Chrissy have. And so in that 4 years' time, we've been able to go from, kind of a hopeless situation to being able to create a lifestyle where we can travel, we can do all kinds of things that we've always dreamed of doing that we've never been able to achieve with prior businesses that we've been involved with. Prior to getting started with Empower, I was more from the traditional business side. I had a financial services company, but I also had spent several years dealing in network marketing as well as affiliate marketing and really trying to figure that stuff out and having some serious struggles along the way, trying to get to the point of being profitable in that business. And it wasn't until coming here to Empower Network and putting the pieces together and really having a business where we can apply, and here's that word again, leverage to our business, that we were able to really achieve the kind of lifestyle that we wanted. So one thing real quick I wanted to just chat with you guys about is that somebody asked me the other day, what is Legacy Mastermind? What does Legacy Mastermind actually do? And it's a great question. I think maybe we don't really talk about it much because you guys here, we've got a number of the top income earners in Empower Network are Legacy Mastermind members, and you hear that term thrown out there. But what do we actually do? Well, here's the cool thing. We meet every single week and we chat pretty much every single day with each other, and we sit around and we come up with ways to help make you guys more money, right? Because when we can create ways, strategies, systems, put things in place that make everyone more money, everybody wins. And it's really the culture here at Empower that we've created that is different from anywhere else, where you have the top income earners, the most successful people in the company, end up collaborating and coming up with ideas and different things that they can put in place for the benefit of everyone. And that's a really unique thing. And I'm super honored to be a part of that and to be able to work with the rest of these guys, which you're going to hear from at least one more of us, maybe a couple more of us here shortly. But here's the cool thing about tonight. Sometimes we get on here and we share with you guys strategies that we've been able to do and perfect and make successful, and then share with you how you can go and do the same thing. But then also some of the time we come up with strategies and things that we can just simply implement for you, and you don't have to do anything, and it's just put in place and you get to win and benefit from that. And tonight is going to be all about the latter. It's going to be all about things that we've been working on as a company, as a leadership mastermind, to be able to put in place and engineer and just roll out to you guys that you don't have to do anything. It's just going to happen for you automatically. So definitely stick with us tonight for the entire show, and it's going to be a show, right? Stick with us for the whole thing because you don't want to miss this stuff. There's some really exciting stuff coming. So with that, I want to kick it over to Lawrence Tam. He looks like he's out of hair and makeup now and ready to come on and speak. So, LT, you got it, man?
Yeah, man, thanks. I appreciate that. Hey, guys, Lawrence Tam here. And just thanks for hanging out with us. We know your time is precious. And if you have little kids running around like I do, give them their homework. That's what homework's for. It's for babysitting. I'm just kidding. So I'm part of the Legacy Mastermind. I'm one of the originals, and I love it here, right? And, there's always a question like, Lawrence, can't you make more money elsewhere? It's like, yeah, can't Michael Jordan make more money elsewhere? Okay, take that back. Not to say I'm Michael Jordan, but maybe I'm like a Akeem Olajuwon, who only, played the Houston Rockets. You know what I mean? So I'm from Houston. And it's just a lot of times it's like, it's not about the money. You make great money here, but you can make money anywhere. And the cool thing about what we do is we teach you how to really build an internet style of business. We're not going to really be the type of network marketing company that will teach you, the perfect way to close a three-way call, or, the ideal way to pick someone up at Walmart, or what is the best way to prospect someone at the funeral. We don't really do those things, right? If you're looking for that, I'm sure a network marketing company will show you how to do that, right? What we're going to do is teach you how to do real marketing, right? And most of us have came through the channels of network marketing. 2 words, network marketing. And if you look at the first word, it's networking, right? And this is what we're doing now. We're communicating. We're showing you some of the things that we're doing here at Empower Network, how we can help you build your businesses. Maybe you're a real estate agent. Maybe you're doing network marketing on the side, or maybe you're full-time, right? But really, the magic comes from marketing, right? And if you don't have a really big list, if you're not highly influential in your town, I'm not, right? I was just an engineer stuck at a cubicle, and I was tired of being told what I was worth and how many weeks of vacation I had. Like, they told me for me to get my 4th week of vacation, I had to be there for 15 years at the same company. The previous 7 years at my other company didn't even count, right? And that's just the realization that that's just the job, right? And yes, at that point, I wanted to jump into something that gave me a little more freedom. And that's why I'm here at Empower Network. It's not necessarily, do I want to make $5 million and be the next, superstar? No, that doesn't really interest me. What really interests me is how much time can I spend with my kids. Like, I have my kids doing math. My other daughter, my daughter's looking at stuff like weird history things, and I'm trying to teach my son about expository writing, and he's in 4th grade. I'm like, let me go to Google then. I don't know, right? And this is kind of what I do all day, right? And so we want to give you the opportunity to live the life you want to live. If you want to be a fisherman, if you want to ski the slopes, if you want to be able to just hang with your kids like I do and ride your bike all day and play Pokemon, you have that option, right? And the reason we're here is because I truly believe with the freedom we have here, with the vision of what David Wood has, it's for the affiliate, it's for the customer. What I've learned here has allowed me to have speaking gigs that I don't think I would have ever had outside of any other company in terms of training and learning the steps of influencing people, like we learn in Mass Influence, one of our really awesome high-end products that we got. But now we got really cool stuff like in terms of building audiences and the things that we've taught in the Momentum VIP courses that's been out. But what we've established here at the Legacy Mastermind is the foundation of what we do now, like the daily shortcuts. How do we build your audience so you don't have to pester your friends and family? What is the real secret to building a successful business? It's really being consistent in getting people to look at your offer, right? And I'm not saying Empower is the only offer. I just believe it's one of the best offers. Why? There's freedom, right? And I truly believe David Wood, as the head honcho, is an affiliate looking to help you put more cash in your pocket. I mean, who else pays out as much as Empower Network to the field, paying you guys as much as they can and as long as they can, because we want to make sure, you're profitable, you're learning. And because of that, you'll get these really awesome opportunities to maybe serve on the Legacy Mastermind, or maybe speak at an event like our next event coming up in Atlanta, right? So we have a lot of cool things coming on tap, so I don't want to hog the stage. I don't know if Michael came on. Michael will be coming up next. No, Michael. What? No, I know Michael. So I believe I'll bring it up Dave. So Dave's coming up next. So here's a true story about Dave, all right? So if you don't know my relationship with Dave, I didn't have a man crush on Dave. It was more of the, what is that dude doing shirtless on the internet, Dave, right? So if you never met Dave is more of the mature, grown-up father with the haircut, wearing a shirt. When I first met him, he was in a tropical island, or looked like an island, but it was actually in Costa Rica. He had palm trees and a couple like coconuts near him, and there were monkeys, and he was shirtless, and he had hair down to his shoulders. Now, if he was an Asian dude, he would look like a Kung Fu master. But obviously he's a white dude, so he's a white Kung Fu master. Because he does Kung Fu. So which is even funnier, right? But Dave has a heart of gold, man, and he's here working tirelessly to help you guys make more money, learn new skills, and offload some of the more difficult things, like how do you get an upsell? How do you get someone to buy more products? How do you get a customer to really have faith in you and what we do here or what you do in your own companies? Well, this is what we're here for. So I'm gonna get the owner, Dave Wood, the man whose vision brought a lot of us together, allowed me to retire from engineering at the age of 33. So I want to thank my man Dave. And outside of that, take your notes out. Dave's got a lot to present, and anytime we have time with Dave, you should definitely stay focused. So I'm gonna hand over to Dave right now.
Cool, man. Oops, that was the wrong button to click. Yeah, so cool. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. So, guys, ignore the Spanish in the background. This is me trying to explain in bad Spanish how to set proper outcomes to a friend that doesn't speak any English. And so, in any case, I really wanted to pop on today and connect with everybody and also kind of just lay out what we're doing and give an update from the conference we did last week, and also help you guys to get in the right direction to accomplish your goals and dreams, which is really why Empower Network exists in the first place. It's to help you do that. It's to empower you to do that. That's why it's called the Empower Network. It's the network of people that's here to empower you to do actually what you want to do in your life. Not to do what we want, but to do what you want. And we can do that. We've proven our ability to do that. And right now what we're doing is we're putting processes in place to do that. If I start sweating today or something like that, I do that on almost every conference, but also it's especially hot. So don't be surprised if I start yelling and screaming and sweating. I got distracted by this comment. I'll stop looking at them. Hold on, I'm going to close that. No, I'll leave it open. But in any case, I got started in network marketing originally, actually, when I was 21 years old. It was back in 2002. And I got started offline. And a lot of people on this conference, you might not even be in network marketing or have the desire to do it. And you might just want to be on the internet and be an affiliate and send traffic to something, and that's okay too. But I got started there in network marketing because I had this giant, dream put into my heart from meeting people in this industry who really lived an extraordinary life that was really different. And that's the thing that I liked about it, is actually not how much money they made. It wasn't, I like making money, don't get me wrong. Making money is tons of fun. But it wasn't how much money they made, because I'd known a lot of people in my life that made money. I'd known a lot of people in my life that had businesses, not huge businesses, but businesses that are decent size, doing, $10 million a year or whatever in car sales, or like I had a friend that had a real estate business. I had friends at church and stuff like that that had different kinds of things that they ran. But these network marketing people I met, they were like these weird mythical creatures to me. I remember meeting this guy when I was like 21 years old. And actually, the first time I ever met a guy in network marketing that baffled my mind, I was like, gosh, I think it was like 14 or 13 or something like that, because I was failing all my classes at school. So my dad took me to an Amway meeting because he wanted me to get good grades. And I told him, no, show me something to do that I don't need good grades. So he took me to an Amway meeting, and I met a guy there. But back in the future, I actually joined when I was 21. So I meet this guy, and he's got this giant beard, and his name is Dave, and he lived on a river in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, like, you had to drive like miles to get to this house in this little town called Whitefish in Montana. And this dude's house was like this $4.5 million home in the middle of nowhere, which is like a really big home. If you build a home for $4.5 million that's like not connected to a city, it's like they're huge, right? And so he just like literally fished all day. And I was trying to figure out how he made money. So I remember having a conversation with him, and I'm like, what do you do all day? And he's like, nothing. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, I mean, I've got leverage and I built a big network. And so I really don't do anything. I really don't need to do anything to make money. I do work, but I don't need to work. It's different. And that's really a distinction that I hope I can get across to everybody here tonight, is that if you can put yourself in a position to where you can work but don't need to, the choices you make might be totally different. What would they be, right? What would they be? A lot of people never ask themselves that question. It's like when you're a kid, it's like you grow up, and it's like people ask you all the time through your whole life, what do you want to do, right? And you hear people ask you that, and nobody ever tells you to challenge it and be like, well, what do you mean by that? Right? Nobody ever asked that. Well, what do you mean by what do I want to do? What I want to do is I want to hike through the mountains and go fishing and like chase girls, right? If you ask a teenager, that's what they actually want to do when they're 12, right? Or maybe they want to play basketball or be a famous NBA star, or maybe they just want to be at, home with their kids if they're a little bit older and they're a parent. They just want more time for things that matter. Maybe some person that you talk to and you say, what do you really want to do? What they actually really want to do is they want to go do Christian missions. Maybe they want to give money away, right? Maybe they really want to make an impact in the world and feel like because they existed, the world is a better place. Maybe that's what they want to do. And it really doesn't have anything to do with any process-based thing. What they actually want to do is they want to have an impact. They want to dream. They want to create things that are beautiful, and they want to change the world, right? That's actually what they want to do. And they don't have a method to do that. They don't have a way. And that's really what I saw network marketing as, is I saw it as a way where you could win by helping other people win, right? Now, I actually didn't even know at the time, there's like this giant crowd of people that was negative about network marketing. There's like this big crowd of people, they think it's a scam, even though it's perfectly legal. There's like another big crowd of people that they don't like it or they have a negative taste for it or whatever. I didn't know that when I got involved, because I was like, this is like the coolest thing ever, right? And then I kind of like learned some stuff, the school of hard knocks, about that the things I was doing was stupid and weren't working. And so what happened is in that industry, I basically was attempting to build it most of my adult life. And then after 7 years, I was 28 years old, I was homeless and I was living in a van. So then what happened is I was like, forget it. I'm just going to work a job for a little while and live in a van and park at beaches. I actually did that on purpose at first. But what happened is I estimated how difficult it would be to get a job not having a place to live. And the reason is because on every job application in the United States, and they do this to do background checks, you have to put an address. Well, if you don't have an address, what do you put there, right? So the first bunch of jobs that, I went and I applied, I remember I'd put on the address field, I'd put in my van, right? Like I literally just put the truth on this field, right? And it was like, so what's your physical address? Green 1996 van, different beaches each night, But I'm laughing now because if I got an application like that, I would probably respond the same. You know what I mean? I'd be like, maybe go somewhere else, or So, anyways, it was hard to get work, and then I got work for Greenpeace because basically what happened is I think the guy was high when he looked at that, or I wrote my brother's address. And they got me a job, and it was basically a commission sales job for like an environmental organization that's really a giant like globalist lobbying group of people that like try to get the government to do what they want. But in any case, I was standing on street corners like hitting people up for donations for Greenpeace. Like I'd get people on like a $25 a month donation, and I was really good at that because I'm really good at talking, right? And so like I'd get on the corner, and that was like the first time I had ever even read about global warming or anything, because like I had to, because all these smart people would question my intelligence on things, and then I'd have to go read about it, but I was actually pretty good. And then that office though, they were losing money because not enough people were selling. And I was one of the only ones that was selling, but I showed up late one day and I got fired. And so at that point now, I'm so rich from having a home business that I have no home, I have no job, I don't have food, and I can't get another job because Hawaii's in a recession, right? And that was 2009. So what I did was, I was like, I am so sick of this crap. I'm so sick of getting jobs. I think, I hate jobs. Now, here's the thing. Like sometimes people, they hear that and they're like, are you making fun of my job? No. I mean, if you love your job, why are you on an internet webinar? You know what I mean? Unless you're helping us run the webinar and you work for us. There's tons of people that they love their jobs and they don't go out in the night looking for things to make more money and change their life and do something different because they actually like their job, right? Lawrence was a guy who worked all day in engineering, and then he came at night looking on the internet to try to get out of engineering because he didn't want to do it. He wanted to do something else, right? So if you're here, you're not a person who wants your job. You're here because you want to be here and you want to do something different. So let's just get over it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like my job, right? I hated jobs. I hated being an employee. I was not good at it because the boss would like get mad at me for something or other. And I'm like totally calm and have no kind of like disconnect in my brain from like somebody else and me. And so even if I'm like homeless and this person was like my boss and like worth $1 million, I would talk to him like we were exactly the same, and it would drive me crazy, right? So I always got fired for that. They'd be like, you're late. And I'd be like, okay, fire me. They'd be like, you're fired. I'd be like, you're an idiot. And then they'd start arguing with me, trying to make me mad, but I'd just go get another job, right? So in any case, I was like, I'm so sick of this crap. So I was like, I'm going to make this happen. That's it, period, right? And so here marks a distinction in my life, and here's why, right? Is because I made a decision that was a totally different kind of decision that I never really made before in the business. I'd made decisions like this in my life, but I'd never really taken that and transposed that into business, right? And people in this industry, they always say make a decision. And a lot of people are like, well, I have made a decision. And then a month later, they quit. Well, if they'd made a decision, that would have never happened. In other words, they never would have quit in the future if they'd already made a decision. So you can see by what they do later, they actually didn't decide. Does that make sense to you, right? It's like if somebody's like, you know, oh, I'm going to be an engineer. Well, Lawrence was an engineer, right? And so it's like, then they like, they're in their senior year of high school and they're like, this math is freaking, I quit. And they just quit, but they haven't even gone to college yet. That's what people do in this industry. It's like, yeah, I've decided. It's like, no, you haven't. Do you even have a notebook with goals in it? Like, do you actually have one? How many seminars do you need to go to that tell you to do this before you actually pull out a notebook and write things down? You know, it's unbelievable how people just don't do stuff like that and how they don't do what we tell them to do, and they're pretending they want it, but they don't do it, right? So it's like, really? It's like if I went to a dance class and I told people that I wanted to learn dance, but like I refused to do anything, right? Or like I watched for 3 weeks sitting in the benches because I'm like, well, no, I just want to watch and check it out, and I want to learn everything first. And they're like, dude, to learn, you got to get up and dance school. And then you're like, no, I'm going to just sit there on the bench. And then after like 3 weeks, you finally decide that you're going to get up and dance. And so you get up, dance for 5 minutes. You're like, I'm tired. I quit, right? And it's like, you didn't decide to be a dancer. That's foolish, right? Or imagine if a college student, right, they went into like the study to be a doctor. You know what I mean? And it's like they get to their very first like week and they're in medical school, and all of a sudden reality sets in that it's hard. You know what I mean? It's like they're fantasizing. I don't know. I've never seen like a doctor who has like some 10 out of 10 gorgeous wife and never works in his doctor office and just goes and golfs all day and never works and never operates on clients and never does any marketing. All the doctors I know, maybe they have a hot wife, they got that part down, but you know what? Or maybe they're a woman, and maybe the woman has a hot wife because it's a lesbian partnership. Who knows how they work? But the reality is they work their ass off. They're in their office all the time after like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, right? And so people get in here, they're like, I'm decided. Why are you talking about that? I've already decided. And it's like, dude, really? Right? Are you really working this like nothing else matters? And that's a question. See, when I met that guy, Dave Shores, that was his name. And then he shaved his beard later and went around and was doing meetings again. You know, he had this audio that he had me listen to, and he told me to listen to it a lot. And I didn't really get it till years later. It was called Doing Whatever It Takes. His own Amway audio, right? But in here, he'd talk about like doing whatever it takes, and everybody in the audience is cheering in the audio. And I'd drive around in my car, I'd be like this. I had like this old beat up Ford Escort, right? And I didn't really understood what that meant till years later. And what it really means is that when you're doing whatever it takes, there's really nothing else that exists. You are going to create this thing, and obstacles are just temporary things that stand in your way that you always overcome. That's how your brain thinks about it. It's a totally different thing than somebody who's trying something out. So a lot of times the problem is when somebody comes into a business like this, or they get on a webinar like this, is it's like they kind of want to make money on the internet, but they're really looking to get involved in a scam. That's actually what they're looking for. You know, they're like, is this a scam? Maybe they ask that because they're looking for one. Because what they want is they want to put their money in an eternal slot machine where they can put in $1 and get out about $1.25, and then put in $1.25 and get out $1.30, and then put in $1.30, and then that time they win $2, and they put in that, and the next time it's $6. It's a fantasy. And you don't want to hear this stuff, and you don't want to hear, if you want to create your dreams, you actually got to dream first. You should write them down. You should get really clear on them. That's actually what this is about, is teaching someone to do that in Spanish. But the reality is, and probably really bad Spanish, because my Spanish is still not business fluent. It's fluent, but not business fluent, and my accent is really bad, right? But I did manage to come up with words to explain this properly, right? But here's the thing I wanted to get across to everybody on here. If you really want to do something great in your life, and you really want to build something great, you got to do this, okay? This is not about what I'm going to share with you tonight and what I discovered. Guys, it's not about something that you hear, and it's like you hear it, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you go do something else. You actually got to do what you say you're going to do. You got to follow through on what you say you're going to follow through. You actually do got to make plans and do got to set goals, and then you got to keep believing in them like they exist in the future. And that's actually one of the things I was explaining, is a lot of people, I actually don't like the word goal. I don't like it. And there's a reason I don't like it, and I usually say outcomes, but goals is more relatable because not everybody even knows what an outcome is, right? It's a more newer way of phrasing things. It's because when I think of goal, and this is in the United States, this isn't true in other languages necessarily. They use word, for example, in Spanish, it's I think meta, or something like that. And it has a different meaning, but goal is like, you know, it's like what you see in a sports game, right? You have a soccer team and there's goals on both ends, and your aim is to kick a ball at that. Well, here's the thing with a goal in a soccer game is you don't always actually hit it, right? So it's actually not a good word for something you want to create, because it's something that's used from a game, right? What you actually want is you want to win, and you want to create something for sure, right? That's actually how you need to think. So what happens usually with people, and this is what would happen to me, is I'd have these ideas in my mind about the future, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, I want this, but I'd never get clear like they told me to do, and go after seminar to seminar to seminar, but never do it, right? That's what I did, but I still did it, and I was foolish, right? But I'd go to the seminars, I'd never get clear, right? And then I'd hear these guys talk about things, and I'd go and like they'd tell these stories, and then they'd be like, write your goals down. And so I might write down, yeah, I want to be a diamond one day, but never really get specific on anything, right? Maybe because I was just trying it out in my mind and didn't know it yet. But the reality is I didn't do what they told me to do. I didn't actually get clear for some reason. I continued to avoid doing it. Why did I do that? Why didn't I have clear plans? Maybe I was afraid of failure, right? Maybe that was why. So I didn't want to like believe in something that then I didn't achieve. So I said, I was like believing in this 2 to 5 year plan, which really is just a big pile of bunk. And then all of a sudden 2 to 5 years passed, and it was still going to be 2 to 5 years before I succeeded, right? I mean, what kind of life was that? It's like all the time you're going to believe in this 2 to 5 year plan that's going to happen 2 to 5 years later. But that's what I did, right? That's what I did for a long time. And so in any case, 7 years later after that, I'm like, screw it, it's fine now, right? And I actually got clear, pulled out a notebook, I remember, and I had like this 30-page plan of all the stuff that I was going to do, and I started writing stuff down. Well, there's a real power in getting clear. It's amazing, right? You will not believe the stuff that happens when people believe things like they're going to happen, period. It's a totally different kind of belief. And that's what I like to say, that's what faith is. I did a show on this today. It's like people use words differently, and I like to distinguish because I really want to explain something specific. It might not actually even be because that's what this actually means, right? It's my definition of it. Because I think people define words differently. But a lot of people, they're like, you really got to believe in yourself. And I'm like, no, because people think of beliefs in weird ways. They think a belief is something that you think will happen. And that's actually not what we're referring to. I want to be really clear. See, people that go and they say, I think it will happen, they're really not sure. Can you hear it in my voice? It's like, yeah, I think it'll happen. They're not sure that it's going to happen. When somebody's operating in faith, that's the distinguishment I like to make. It's like this person is acting like this is going to happen. How do they know? Well, the fact is they don't know. They're not like a prophet or something like that. They can't predict the future necessarily. I don't know, maybe someone can. But the reality is that they act totally differently than somebody who thinks it's going to, yeah, I think this is going to work out. Don't you hear the weakness when I say something like that? Yeah, I think this is going to work out. And then what happens is when something hard happens, they quit. Yeah, I think it's going to work out that I'm going to be a doctor. Yeah, I think I'm going to go be a diamond enamel. Yeah, I think I'm going to go get rich on the internet. It's like, no, you don't think so. You really are just looking for a reason to quit. You're not sure yourself, right? So when you think about goals, and I was showing somebody this the other day, it's like when you remember something in your life, you hold it in your mind in a certain way, and you're sure that it's happened. Like if you think of a time, let me give you an example of this. If you just go back in your life to a time when you were totally sure of yourself and you remember that, right? It could be anything. I've been sure of myself all the time, lots of times in my life, and all of us have, right? But if you just go and you remember a time, right? Maybe you're sure of yourself and you're asking a woman to marry you, or maybe you're sure of yourself and you're going and getting a big promotion at work, or maybe you're sure of yourself and you're starting a business, but you're sure, you're totally sure. But you go back in that memory, you hold that memory in your mind as something that happened. It's like you totally believe that happened, right? That's the way memories work. It's when you think of them, you're totally sure it happened. But when people think about their goals, they think about them totally differently. But you got to remember, you got to hold your goals in your mind like memories from the future. Like this is something that is happening in my future, and it's not going to maybe happen, it is happening. And if you think like that, it's totally different. So that's what I did in 2009. I started acting different because I was certain of it. Yes, Lawrence, he met me back then. I was telling people I'm going to make $30,000 a month in 90 days and go move and live on the beach in Costa Rica. It will happen, period. And it did. It blew people's freaking minds that it happened because I did exactly what I said I'd do. But I wasn't kind of funking around with it. I knew that it was going to happen. I was totally clear. I had notebooks full of notes on how I was going to do it, and I did it all. So 2007 rolls around, and this is a story I don't tell all the time, but I've told it sometimes, and it's magical, okay? But it's not actual magic. It's something everybody can do. Your mind can do amazing, unbelievable things because you watching this, you're beautiful. I don't know if you know that. Yep, you're sexy. I'm talking to you. Anyway, so if you go out and you have belief and faith in the future, right, you can do amazing things, right? There's all sorts of quotes on that from every old religion in the world, from Buddha, from Jesus, from everybody that's ever spoken and done amazing things. They all have a way of looking at things where they are going to force their will into the world. They know it's going to happen for sure, and they just do it and do it and do it and do it, and then they just it's like they break through reality with this thing they want, and it happens. It's like amazing, right? So back 2007, I'm sitting there with some buddies, right? And I was in this company called Agile, and I had accomplished all my goals in it. I didn't realize that till later. I'd set these goals in this company. It was an offline network marketing company, and my goals were small because I thought small at the time because I had never really done anything before, but I set this goal in particular. This was before I was homeless, and I actually did it. I was making like $4 or $5 grand a month, selling these liquid gel vitamins that we all said taste delicious, but really, you know what they tasted like? They tasted like commissions is what they tasted like, because you'd squeeze it and you'd be like, it's delicious, right? I was like, we've all been in a company like that before, right? Well, we have. I don't know if you have watching this, but probably you have. Don't kid yourself. So in any case, we faked ourselves out, right, to go sell this gel vitamin thing. So in any case, I'm there with these friends, and I had this friend. His name was Jimmy Cash. His actual last name was Cash. And I remember when he got involved in this company, because I was like, your name's Jimmy Cash? And he's like, yep. And I said, you got Cash as the last name, Jimmy. You need some cash. Get in, right? And he joined. So in any case, Jimmy Cash gets in, and he lived in this house with his wife, Kristen, and they invited us out for some party. I can't remember why, but Chris Rushlow was there. A lot of you guys know Chris. And we came over, and Jimmy was like, he was always excited about things, you know, and had like visions in his mind, things he wanted to do, but he'd get distracted, you know. And I don't know how he is today. I think he's a preacher or something now. But it fits him, doesn't it? A preacher named Preacher Cash. I mean, it's just the perfect name. He needs to be on TBN. But in any case, so Jimmy, he goes, one day, we go to his house, and he goes, that's it, we're going to Bora. He's like, I really want to go to Bora Bora. And then he's like, we're going to Bora Bora. That's it, we're going to Bora Bora, right? He's like, we're going to Bora Bora. And I was like, okay, right? And so he said, no, we're writing it down like they tell us in the seminar. So he grabbed a card, and he pulled this like card out, or this piece of paper or something. I can't remember if it was a card or a piece of paper, but I remember what he wrote. And he's like, I am in Bora Bora, feet over the dock in the Pacific Ocean, looking out over the ocean at a full moon in 2011. And he goes, we're all going to sign our name, right? And so anyways, I'm holding this thing, and I read it, I imagine. I didn't even know what Bora Bora was, right? So I read this thing, and I imagine it, and then I like said, it's happening, period. I signed my name, but I totally believed it when I did it. Now here's the thing. I forgot about that. I never looked at a picture of Bora Bora after that, right? For years. I completely forgot this ever happened. And then 2009, I start making $30,000 a month. So 2011, I make like $350,000 selling other people's products, right? Just like I'd mapped out the year before. But I'd stopped growing because I'd accomplished all my visions, right? I'd written them all down, and I'd just accomplished them all. And so I didn't figure out for a long time why I was so stuck. But it was because I stopped dreaming, right? And so in any case, I was living my dream from before, but I wasn't dreaming for anything new. So I was the same income for a long time, right? So in any case, I'm making like $350,000 that year, and I won every affiliate competition I was ever in for other stuff. In any case, I didn't notice there was this competition around because I'd stopped marketing, and I was trying to think of like, how can I help my team live this life that I live? And I'd sit there in my house. I live in the mountains at a place called Portolón in Costa Rica, right? And I'd think all day. I'd be like, how could I do this? How could I do this? So I literally just turn off my computer. I had a whiteboard out. And like I would just stare at it, and then occasionally I'd go write an idea down. I'd go like, no, that's not going to be it. And then I'd think about it again for months. I mean, months of this, doing nothing more. In any case, one day I turn Facebook on, and I'm writing something goofy on Facebook, right, like I do often. And somebody sends me a message. They say, Dave, Ray Higdon's going to win this competition. And I was like, there's a competition? And he was like, yeah. He's like, you've not lost anything in years. And I was like, I didn't know there's a competition. And he's like, dude, you're something else. And anyways, they're like, anyway, I just want to let you know. And I was like, yeah, nah, I don't feel like winning. I shut my computer, right? So in any case, I'm sitting there, and I'm staring at my whiteboard, and then I'm messing around, and I'm not thinking about it for days. And then he sends me a message a couple days later. It's like October time or something like that. He's like, dude, there's only like a couple days left, and it's like, you're going to lose this thing. And I was like, yeah. I shut my computer, and I was like, forget it, I'm going to win, right? And I turn my computer on, I send out a voice broadcast, I send out an email, I do a webinar, one webinar, and it's like there's Ray, and there's like, now, Ray didn't have influence then like he's got now, right? Ray's got a lot of influence now. He was just getting it then. But it was like Ray, it was like second, it was like third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and I had like 0 because I wasn't paying attention. And then I just went like this in one night, and I won the last second. Now, I didn't even know what it was, okay? I didn't know what it was, and that was near the end of 2010, right? And so I turned my computer back off. I'm not paying attention. And then the owner of this company, they're trying to get a hold of me for like days, right? And then a month. And then near the end of the year, they're in a panic. And I didn't know why, because I didn't understand taxes at the time. Long story, but I had back taxes for a long time, right? Because I didn't understand it my first couple of years making money. I didn't understand how taxes worked, right? So in any case, what happened is they're like, dude, I got to get rid of this gift, because if I don't give this to you, I'm going to have to give it to you because we promised it and pay taxes on it. I was like, dude, so let me give you the money, right? And so finally they get a hold of me, and I'm like, okay, what is it, right? So they say, well, there's 2 choices. You got $10,000 cash, number 1. Number 2, trip for 2 to Bora Bora. I was like, I get it, right? So without even knowing that was what the contest was, without even trying to win it, years later, right, weird law of attraction stuff, just because I believe it, I believe this like it's going to happen, okay? What happens is somebody sends me a message last minute, I win a contest, don't know what it is, May 17, 2011, I'm sitting with my feet over a bungalow in the ocean in Bora Bora as a full moon is going over the bungalow, over the Pacific Ocean, and I remember that card, and I was like, this is fucking awesome, right? It's the most cool thing in the universe. So the point is, with all these crazy stories, I got like 1 million stories weirder than that, right? You wouldn't believe them. But in any case, you probably don't believe that. I don't care if you believe it, because it happened, and stuff like that happens to me every day because I have faith in stuff. So step 1, you got to have faith in stuff. So how's that get into now? Well, what I'm doing now is I'm taking the same stuff, and what I'm going to do is we're going to go and take Empower Network and just make it into a crazy commission-producing, rich-making monster machine of success in 2017. And one of the things that we've been doing over the last few months has been just working on building our systems to make them awesome, okay? Make them awesome. And we did a webinar the other week, and this goes into how you can make a lot of money, where we're announcing an internal sales team that we're building. And some of you, a lot of you got to meet Carrie over the last week, okay? And so what I want to do is I want to paint out for you, I'm going to erase this Spanish goal setting thing. Some of you might understand Spanish, and maybe you even understand what I'm talking about back there, but probably not. And I'm going to talk about how to make money in Empower Network 2017 and hit your goals, right? So hold on just one second. So in any case, right, I'm here, and let's talk about like how to make money here from like a practical level, if that's cool, and then talk about what we just built. And it should actually be going, I originally wanted to get it live today. The tech is done, but the videos are a little bit behind because I was a little bit behind on them. And it was mostly just because I got distracted. I make an excuse, but I just like to tell people to get distracted sometimes and not make up stuff. So in any case, let's go over here. Let's talk about how to make money. So first what I'm going to do, I want to paint out, some of you guys, you were in Empower before. And by the way, there's an opportunity on this call before we start pushing lots of new members through for our existing members to apply to upgrade your account and get on the phone with Carrie, who's going to be leading the sales team. And I'm going to talk about his results he's gotten. But first I want to paint this stuff out, so I want to make sure everybody here understands how to make money, understands our model now. This is very different. Like if you were around in 2011, like our model now is like 10 times better. It's going to be way better next year. There's also stuff that's going to be added in through this spectrum next year. Every time we find an opportunity to find a way of making you more money, it will happen. And there's also some big brand stuff happening, and there's some other stuff happening this next year that we're doing. And let's talk about where we're going to go. So my goal with that sales team, actually, and this is a goal I have, it's an outcome, it's written down, is I want that team on the phones to be closing $5 million a month in sales from just that team within 6 months. I believe we can do it because actually I know we can do it just because the kind of results that we can produce already. But I'll get into that in a second. So let me talk about the model, okay? And the reason why this is important to understand, you can see that just fine, is because if you understand the basics of the model, it makes it easier to map out your plans. Because even if you understand this, you shouldn't just take this and just say, okay, and just start fiddling around with stuff. You need to make a plan like business people do, okay? And like, it took me a long time to understand how real business works, but the reality is most people, they don't even make plans, right? And it's like, dude, make a plan. And they're like, okay. And they're like, I'm gonna work 4 hours a day. It's like, that is not a plan, right? At a job, your boss tells you what to do. You see that sweat? That there, my friends, is because I'm excited. I just want to point out the armpit sweat, because every time you see it, you're gonna think of commissions from now on. So anyways, the model works like this, okay? We have at Empower Network, right, we have a funnel, right? And this is something that we've taught for years, and it's the easiest way to explain it. Because if you think about it like this, it makes something that's actually very complex to explain, very simple to understand. So the model actually works like this. Oh yeah, there you go. See, I got that on the whiteboard, but it's also a notebook, $5 million a month sales team, right? So in any case, we got this here. That was actually a few days ago, so you know I'm not just making stuff up. So in any case, we got traffic coming into the model, and traffic actually means a human being who's actually seeing, you know, an offer is what it means. And then you've got lead capture mechanisms, so we'll just say lead capture. Then you've got front ends, right, which is the people that are coming in. We sell subscriptions on the front end, and the reason why we sell subscriptions on the front end of our model is because then we have residual income, if that makes sense. And then here you've got upsells for subscriptions, but you've also got offer for $197 upsell. Then we have an offer here for $300. Then we have an offer for $997, and then we have an offer for $1,997, right? And then there's an offer here for $4,997. Those are the individual prices, not everything together. And all of these things, they pay out 80% commissions to the field, and the affiliate fees are built into the actual offers themselves. And so that is actually the way that our model works now. So this, for example, this pays out by itself on that offer. It's $3,997 that gets paid out. The first sale goes entirely to the sponsor. And then this one here, I think it's like $1,597.60 that gets paid out, right? And then this one here, it's like $797.60 that gets paid out. And then this one is $160, then $157.60, right? And then on the residuals, on the elite package, there's $144 a month that's paid out, right? So the way that our one-time purchases work is the first sale, all that money goes to the sponsor because we want people to recoup their money quick. Now the cool thing is this model, with the way our comp plan is, you actually get into profit even faster than when we were doing 100% commissions back in 2011, 2012. Because it took your third sale to break even then. And right now it actually only takes 2, right? So it's actually faster, you get into profit faster with the way things work in the model. So now in any case, I want to go and map some stuff out for you that will help you to be able to do this. Because what you can do is you can take these numbers here and you can construct incomes based on them, based on the upsell numbers that we have. And this is the thing that I want everybody here to understand is how do you make money? First step is you gotta have sweaty arms, right? That's just a man thing, and it's something that I like to do on Livecast and point out. Most people, they try to hide it, but I like to talk about it because then you laugh and think it's funny and focus on the presentation. It's a much better strategy than trying to hide it. So in any case, if you go over here, how do you create income? Well, let's take an income number that is really common with people and let's map that out, okay? So we have an income number. Let's say you wanna make $10,000 a month and that's your outcome. In other words, that's what you're gonna do. And you wanna make $10,000 a month within, I think you can see at least that mostly, you wanna do it within like 90 days is your goal to do it because maybe it's gonna take you a little bit to learn. I think you can do it faster, right? Well, what you do to construct that income is first, this is a monthly goal. So this is gonna be like in a rolling 30-day cycle on average, right? Some months are 28 days, some months they're 30 days, most are 31, right? But if you take this on a 30-day cycle and you break this into parts, what does that work out to on a daily basis, right? Somebody have a calculator? Can somebody calculate that? I think it's like $350 or $300 or something like that, but I can't remember exactly what it is. Hold on, I got one. But let's see, 10,000. If I take 10,000 and I divide by 30, right? Yeah, so 330. Let's take the easiest thing in the world. Why would I even do that? But $333 a day is about what it is on average. Now, most people would take this and they'd say, just put it on working days, but I actually just say, put it on 7 days. Generate income in your not around too, and average it out to that, right? But you can break that into working days as well. This would be on a daily basis, right? And so then what you do is you can say, this is what I need to make every day to hit my goal. And then I have, let's say you've got 3 hours in the night to work your business. And so that's going to average the week 15 hours. So you actually have, let's just say you have 2 hours. 2 hours a night on average, 7 days a week to work your business, right? That means that you need to make, from what you do, every hour you work your business, you need to do activities that generate, on average, right, half of this amount, which is about $167 an hour is what you make, right, which is not a bad hourly wage, right? So what you do from that is you take a look at this number and you say, in order to hit my monthly goal, which is here, I've got to generate this per day. I have 2 hours on average per day to dedicate towards this outside my job, and to generate that, I need to make sure that every hour I work, the work that I'm doing is worth $167 an hour, right? Now, how do you do that? That's where it takes some figuring out. But if you start out with thinking like that, it makes your life way easier. Now, you can take this with any income and you could multiply it. Like, let's say you wanted to make $100,000 a month. What do? Well, you just add a zero to all that stuff there, right? Now, if this was the case, it'd probably take you longer. Then you'd have to average $1,670 an hour. It might be better to start with something smaller and go full-time first for most people. That's not very realistic, right? So how do you do that? Well, what you do is, let's put this back down to something that most people are actually setting, right? 5 to 10,000 a month, right? 5,000 a month would be half that. What you do is you want to take a look at our product line, and you want to make a production-based plan, right? And your production-based plan, right? Let me write this down. It's got to be rooted in reality, right? You can be as grand as you want as long as you're specific enough. But it's got to be rooted in real numbers, or you're not going to mechanically be able to believe that it'll work with complete certainty, like I was talking about when I talked about faith, right? You've got to have a mechanical way of accomplishing your goals. And there is ways to accomplish any goal, and that's sometimes where you need to take some creativity and think about it a little bit. So in a production-based plan, what's that plan based around? Well, this is the thing that's maybe going to set us apart from like a network marketing presentation. I would actually tell you that this plan should be 100%, right, based on you, right? Because we can do that in our model. What do I mean by this? Well, if your team is adding to it, treat it as extra. In other words, what I would do is I would take whatever your base level income is that you want to make, and I would break it down in a day, and I would make a plan that you, based on what you do, 100% of your activities are going to produce that much income from your work. If you build your plan like this, your plan is going to be believable because you can make it happen regardless of anybody else, right? Now, the cool thing is with residual income, if you go over here, right, is if you have residual income coming in, right, it becomes easier to hit those numbers as time goes by, all right? But you've got to make it based on you. And so what would something that look like? Well, what I've always taught people to do is I've always taught people that I've always aimed high. And the reason is because when I teach this, people actually do it, right? Not everybody does it, but people can do it, right? If they aim for it. I've always taught people to get 2 new people a day involved. Now, that's a lot, right? And I'm not going to tell everybody here to do that. 2 new people into the front of the funnel daily, right? But it's a good model because you can quickly explain how to do something gigantic. Right? You don't need to do this with the way that our model is working right now in order to hit $10,000 a month by the end of January, right? But this is what I've always taught because it's an easy model to explain because you've got enough numbers in order to make things work. Here's the thing that you want to understand with what you're going to be doing in your business. Over a period of time, you're going to have numbers of people that do certain things, and then you can predictably generate income, right? Right now, you might not know what your numbers are. And so it's going to take you just producing for a bit to figure them out. Once you have them, you actually have a mechanical path to produce your outcome because you know exactly how much you're going to make per person. Does that make sense? Right? So what you want to do is I just tell people, bring in personally, if you brought in a couple people a day, right? And out of the couple people that you brought in a day, let's say one of them on average, they bought the momentum product. So one of them bought the 197. And then let's say every 2 days, people would buy the 997. And then let's say every 5 days you'd sell a 1997, and then twice a month you'd sell, one of these, right? So that there would generate an income that was bigger than $10,000 a month. But if you work your business and you break it into sections and parts, right, you're going to actually have an ability to create an effective strategy. Now, what I want to do tonight is actually really specific. I'm going to assign you guys to actually just think through this and start getting clear for the new year right now, and start developing a plan and start getting clear on what your outcomes are going to be and how much you want to produce. So let me talk to you about how our model works and then how to make things happen, and I'm going to come back to this here today. Okay, and I'm going to talk about last week. So what we did last week was we released a plan of growing sales team here at Empower Network to help us, bring in more revenue per customer. And so let's talk just about the results that we've gotten. I don't think Carrie's on here. I haven't actually come out. He's probably busy with calls. But basically, this is the result that we've got. We generated a bunch of applications from the webinar that we did, right? And then out of the applications, we had applications that were qualified and then not. And what do I mean by that? Well, what's going to happen, guys, is that when you're building your business, you have some people come in that they have money to spend to build their business. Other people, they come in and they have no money to spend, right? And they also don't believe they can generate money. Now, the truth is it's bullshit. They can generate money, but they don't believe they can. Trying to convince somebody who has no money and believes they can't have it to come up with money to buy a product is a huge waste of your time and a huge waste of salespeople's time, right? So the filters, when we say people qualified, we're talking about people actually have money to invest in their business, right? In other words, they can invest money in their business. Some people, they might say, I've got $200 a month to invest. Another person might say, I've got nothing. I only got money for the $7 trial. I need money in 2 weeks. And to those people, it's actually probably better than most of the time tell them to get a part-time job. Because they're thinking about like a lottery. Like, I want to give you $7 and generate 300 out, right? It's like, dude, no business works like this in the universe. It's not a slot machine, right? You go put all those quarters in the slot machines. That's odds, right? If you want to gamble, right? So in other words, if somebody has zero money and they're also saying, I won't come up with any money, trying to sell them another product is not a good use of their time. And if they really only have a couple $100 a month for subscriptions, let them do that and stay around. It makes sense, right? So we had qualified applications, and he was able to generate this last week $1,100 per qualified application. So now we have actually a system to filter through those, and that's a lot, right? So what that means is basically we have a formulaic way of utilizing a sales team, right, in order to generate this per qualified application, and about 30 to 40% of the people coming through actually are qualified and have the ability to purchase some upsells, right? And so that means if you bring in 10 people, there's 6 of them, that's all they can spend. And that's okay. It's like, if that's all they got, let them. They're welcome to stay around as much as possible, right? But the purpose of this is actually to sort through. So what we did in this last week is we took a look at the things we told you last week and we mapped out the process. And what we did is we essentially took the data that we have and we built a process around it in order to maximize upsells. So this is actually what we're going to be doing to maximize upsells here. And how it's going to work, and we'll be tweaking this between now and January with one focus in mind. And this will fit into what you do, and then I'll talk about what you do as well. And if you're not in Empower Network, I would just join. There's a link underneath there's a link to join. And then if you're in, this is your chance to actually put in, you can click on the link, you can log in, okay, and you can fill out the form, okay? And if you fill out that form, I'd love it if you'd connect with Carrie and upgrade this week before the new year. And that would position you right to profit with us going into the new year in the right way, okay? So to maximize upsells, okay, let's talk about how this works. And so basically what we've been doing is we've been having traffic, we've been generating traffic through daily actions, which is extremely simple, right? So we have the daily shortcut, and that's become our primary social traffic mechanism, which is the thing that most people's gonna do. Because the reality is, guys, is when you're talking about building a business like this, our core thing, and you can talk, Lawrence can talk about this all day and night, it's like doing something that everybody that comes in can do within an hour of joy, right? I mean, that's it, right? It's not, if we could teach you all the complicated stuff in the world, and the complicated stuff is good to learn, right? But if right when you come in, there's not something you could do within an hour, we're gonna lose 90% of our business, because this is a business that is built on what the average person could do. Okay, it really is. And so our goal is to maximize that and make it more simple. So what we've been doing is we've been bringing in traffic to the daily shortcut,
and then we've been bringing them through a VSL, right? And then what we've been doing is we've been sending them through a 3-sit video acceleration training, which I made before finishing remaking our offers because I wanted something congruent in place. But now that our offers are remade, it's not congruent the way that it is. And it's also pointless to have 2 back offices because we've had this iPaaS back office. Those of you who've been around, if you're not in, ignore this, right? And it's pointless. And so we basically we've been working on it all week. The coding's almost done. We just tanked the iPaaS back office because there's no sense in having 2 members areas. It's confusing for everybody, right? We don't need it. It does nothing special. There's no special code in it. The code in it is badly written. We tanked it. We just put it in the back office, right? So what we did was we rebuilt the acceleration training. Last week I said I was going to make a single video, and then I talked to my coder about it. The reason I wanted to make a single video was because I wanted to make something that was like simple to code and we could get fast and simple. And then I talked to him about it, and he's like, you know, if those are the sections, it would really make sense to make those a series of very short videos. He said people will get through it more. I have tons of data on it, and we already have the technology. We don't need to build anything. All you need to do is do the videos in this way. So I asked a couple people about it, and everybody agreed it was simple, right? And so basically we have a video series that breaks everything down. It's finished, okay? Right now it's actually being edited. Jose is editing it back there. And like half of it's done. All the content's done, but it just needs to be finished being edited. It'll be done tomorrow, okay? And the code's done. So tomorrow this should go live. If not, it'll go live Wednesday, right? Because it's done and it's not very complex. But basically what it is it's a acceleration training. We just build it. It'll be right in the Empower back office. We have an email series going to it. And the acceleration training really frames people in a really good way, okay? And when it comes live, I encourage everybody here to go through it. It'll take you less than an hour, okay? And so that's the cool thing is our training to get somebody started. It's less than an hour. It effectively upsells. But also in the acceleration training, somebody gets through it and they know exactly what to do, and it leaves with them doing the first daily shortcut right in the Power Back Office. So in other words, it's like, actually I had John do the video where he explains the daily shortcut because everyone knows how I ramble. Like it's not a mystery, you know? If I get on a stage, it will be longer than an hour. If I do a webinar, there's no schedule, you know? And I'm like that. It's how my brain works. It's a good thing in certain areas, and in other areas, it's better to put somebody else doing it. And so he does the section. But let me explain to you guys how people are framed, why it makes sense. I actually have got it right here so I don't forget something in here. And hold on just a second. Let me just pull this up, right? And so I'm just going to explain this, okay? So first thing is we've got a series of very short videos, right? Hold on, let me open this in a new window so I can see both screens at once. And they're in sequence, and there'll be a progress bar, and we'll have an email sequence that'll just continue to get people back through it. The goal is to get people through it immediately, but it's simple, so they should, right? Like our current one, tons of people complete it, and it's what, 3 hours? You know, and then there's more training after that. And so it's like, in this one, it's like an hour of nothing more than somebody needs to build, right? And it's actually less than that. So what it is first I have an intro, which basically explains what's going to happen in the series. The intro is like less than 60 seconds, right? It's short, pre-framed well, and that's me. And then after the intro, we talk to people about the vision. This is maybe like 2-3 minutes, right? But it's short, and the reason is because we don't need to like hypnotize people when they start, you know. And so I mean, it took a lot of convincing to get me to think like this, but you know, it's progress overall. Then after this, they go to the vision. What I do is I introduce them to the corporate team. And the reason is because it was actually a comment that got me to think about this on Facebook the other week because somebody was like, hey, this person quit. They said David Wood's a one-man show. And I'm like, why do they think that? You know, that's not true, because it's not true. But it's because if you go through the acceleration training, it's like hours of videos of me, right? Well, that's probably why they think that. And so in any case, what I do is in a very short video, this is probably like 3-4 minutes, right? I introduce you to the whole corporate team, everybody. I had them all script out an introduction on what they do for people. And then we're editing that together now. And so, because if you see the whole corporate team, it feels better. It feels like there's a real company behind it because there's a lot of people working on this. And that's actually not even all people, right? So that's the team. And then what I do is introduce people to the Legacy Mastermind, which is the leadership team. I introduce them to leaders. This is maybe 2 to 4 minutes, I'll say. I don't know the exact times on those.
And then after we introduce people to the mastermind, what we do is we show people what to do every day. And that's John Oates. And this is actually a longer one. His section is like 22 minutes, right? Because he couldn't make it shorter. And when he says he couldn't make it shorter, I believe him because he doesn't ramble ever, right? He like says what he needs to say and he's done and he gets off the stage. And if that took 20 minutes, it takes that. If it takes an hour, it takes that. And if it takes 3.5 minutes, that's it. So he actually explains that, and then I come after it. So this is a total of about maybe 23.5 minutes. I'll just say 24 minutes, okay? Because I came over that and I pre-framed the next video. And this is how to do the daily shortcut because it's really easy to do. But we had, and this is actually the idea I got was from the Leadership Mastermind. And the reason is because I think, John, it was the other week you were mentioning you had some lady get started, like a new rep, and she took 8 hours to do the daily shortcut, right? And I was like, that's not a shortcut, right? And I was like, what was she doing? She was probably trying to figure out what everything in there meant for 7 hours and 45 minutes. And then she's probably spent 15 minutes actually doing it, right? And so we show you actually very specifically how to do that whole thing, okay? So this is actually quite short. And then we have outcomes, right? And Will comes and he shows, I have Will do that because that gives an intro. So we have people set clear outcomes. And this is actually where we're going to collect the data for the applications because when we're eliciting resources and finding out what you've got to achieve your goals, people give real answers, right? And so we want actually real answers from people on how much money they have to spend, how much money they want to make, because that's going to help the coaches, right? And so Will does this. This is like 15 minutes or so, something like this, right? It's not very long. And then here we've got Carrie comes in and he does a call to action for the coaching appointment, right? And this is a very short video. It's maybe 5 minutes tops, right? I actually think it's shorter than that, but it's pretty short. And then after that, after we come here, we do a sales video for the Momentum product. And this sales video is like 7 minutes, something like this. And this is a sales video. And so that'll be presented twice, once in the funnel, once in here when they start. And then the coaches will sell it too. And then after that, I have like a 30-second video that congratulates them, right? 30 seconds, right? Altogether, it's less than that, right? Those minutes might not add up to that, but it's like less than an hour. And it's like just super efficient and that's it. But in any case, what I teach them here is I basically teach them in like less than a minute. I'm like, so what do you do? Do what John showed you in the daily shortcut. And then when somebody gets started, make sure they go through this training. But it's like they watch a video, click the next video, click the next video, click that. It's less than an hour, super fast, right? And so the thing is, that's it. Well, this is the thing that I want you guys to understand. See, our goal is if we're having salespeople, because we don't need some really elongated process to close people, right? We just need good information and for them to have clear goals and then just sell them what they can get and then keep them in the culture and they'll buy more stuff, right? And we want people to plug in. So this does all of that, but we frame the data to get good applications in the context of outcomes. Because if we say it's an application, people lie on it, right? Like right now, because that's gonna come up. Like people will see the application, they'll just click stuff, they'll say whatever. But if they're setting goals, it's like how much money do you have to hit your goal? It's a totally different kind of answer, right? So anyways, that's the frame good application. So here's our goal, and this is the outcome that we've got over the next couple of weeks with you guys. This process is extremely simple. It's extremely fast, right? It's all scripted. It's all basic stuff. But right after this, we get people doing the daily shortcut. Our goal is to get a new person taking action within an hour, right? Because if you and I could get really effective at that, we could put 200,000 people in 2017 easily, right? Because new people succeeding fast is like the lifeblood of our success. It really is. And we've got all sorts of other stuff processing in the background to help build out good systems and help get things done right. But our goal is if we could get as many of the qualified people that we have on the phone with a good person fast, right, we can go in this next year very easily get the sales team by themselves doing about $5 million a month. We'll help you guys do sales too on that as well and help you guys succeed on that as well. So that's going to be the outcome within the next 6 months is let's get the phone team doing an extra $5 million a month. Well, if they're doing $5 million a month, how much is that going to generate from you, right? Well, right around $4 million, okay, for the field a month, right? Which means some people can make a lot of money. And so what should your focus be? It should be focused on simplicity. So what I want to do is very quickly, I want to map out how to make a lot of money and why this is a super exciting time. And I want you guys to see, and it'll actually help a lot of you too, especially those of you who are been in. You know, I remember, this is something, sometimes you gotta be reminded of stuff, but I don't think Lauren's actually heard this, but I've told the story. I remember our first event, right? And I was at the event, and there's like 1,000-something people there. And I went in the hall, and somebody was talking to a friend, and they're like, dude, I totally thought this thing was a scam. It's like a real company, right? I heard it. I was walking by, and I was like, they thought it was a scam, and they flew to our event, you know what I mean? And I was like, and it was so funny to hear, right? But a lot of people, they come in, you know, they don't want to be in a scam, and they don't know that there's a lot of people working on this stuff, right? They don't know. They don't know who these people are because we never introduced them. But there's a lot of people here that are really talented. And so I think introducing them to new people right when they're starting is like the best possible thing we can do, right? And so the goal would be this, right? Is so we have this system. It's the daily shortcut system. So what we'll do is we'll send out notice to everybody, right, when that is live, okay? The daily shortcut, this is our goal with this, is we want to give you one thing to do every day that works, right? And so on our end, our mission is to then from your actions that you take in this daily process to make these actions have optimized results. And our goal is to get you results from taking very simple actions every day, right? Well, when you take those actions every day, results mean you're generating traffic. That traffic's generating leads. Those leads are generating sales. That means every part of those processes need to be built and optimized and congruent in the right way, which right now they're not totally optimized, and they've been improving. But we're going to continue improving them and measuring them. In fact, over the next, we're doing a simplified version right now of tracking, and then we'll have a more complex version maybe at the end of January. But we've been rebuilding our whole system, and so we've been redoing the tracking systems as well. So our goal is to help you get results in the form of leads, right, and especially leads that convert into sales. And so that process, the goal is to optimize it for these kind of results, which eventually that actually produces financial results, right? Because if you could bring in new members from work you'd only do in 30 minutes a day, even if you don't know how it works, that there, my friends, will put 100,000 people in Power Network in 12 months. Easy, okay? And actually last year, I mean, we put in 35,000 people or something. It's not hard to put in 100,000, right? It's just that this year when we put in 100,000, everything was being optimized and cranking like crazy, right? And so then what we do, we convert these into sales, okay? And then from optimizing conversions there, then the next part is to optimize how many people go through the acceleration training. Because the goal here is not just to sell things, it's to get a new person bringing in new people without knowing really much stuff, right? Fast, without overwhelming them, right? So this is going through the acceleration training, which is again in the EN back office. And this is, we're going to say, this is going to be under, I don't even know how to make this simple. I'll say under 60 minutes, right? So to get them taking action in under 60 minutes, right? But also in the process of doing this through the acceleration training to find out what they want, and that's in the form of what their outcomes are, and help them get clear on that. And then to also, in the process of that, get them on the phone with somebody to help them reach those outcomes, which would be like our coaching system, right? And the coaches, what they're going to do is then take this people that you're bringing in and maximize your results, okay? And that's the goal with each part of this process is to maximize it. So then your goal actually and what you do becomes very simple. You just need to do the daily shortcut. And then what you do is as you're getting results, make your system better to bring in more leads and traffic and sales as we're making ours better. Does that make sense? Okay. Very simple way to scale your income, right? So what do you do with your new people? Well, number one, what you want to do is you get a new person in. If you get a new lead in, number one, you just want the person to join. What they join at doesn't matter. If they join, if you need to call them, send them an email, right? Learn skills and get people to join. I like to get people to join through email, but however you get them to join is fine. Okay, number one, get them to join. Number two, when you bring a new person in, get them to go through that acceleration training, which will take them under an hour, and they'll know what to do every day. When they go through the acceleration training, that'll elicit their outcomes and also their resources, and then we can plug them into a coach, and if they're not qualified to spend money, then we'll get them somebody that won't sell, maybe customer service or something, That's fine. If they don't have money to spend, we don't want to browbeat people to try to buy something they can't buy and will get offended by or something. Just let them stay in and take action every day. It's fine, right? So we're getting them on the phone with coach, and this can maximize upsells. And then what you want to do with people is you want to get them to do the daily shortcuts, right? And then when they do that and they're bringing in people, right? Make sure they just go through those steps. That's it. So the way that you can help is make sure everyone that you bring in goes through those steps immediately, right? Like frame it in your pre-frame videos, tell people it in your emails. If you talk to them, which I'd encourage you to do, talk to them. And also on our end, what we're going to be doing is gradually scaling this. We're going to be starting small to perfect it between now and January. We're also going to have new member calls started from customer service. So we'll be calling new members and getting the new members to go through the acceleration process as well, right? And so that's basically it. So if you do that, right, it's actually really simple, right? Very simple formula, right? So how can you scale an income very simply? We got to master all the mechanics of this, but let me actually show you how to generate income. And I'll use a couple hypothetical numbers for you. So I already mapped some stuff out for you. And right now we're still in an optimization phase. So let's say let's just say 40% to make things easy, right? Let's say 40% of the members that you bring in can buy more stuff. In other words, they're not totally busted, okay? Let's say 40%. So let's say you bring in 2 people a day, right? And you bring in, over a period of the week, you bring in 10 people, right? 10 people on a trial, right? Not that hard to do, but also that might seem extraordinary, so you can backtrack, you can make this smaller if you want to make it smaller. Okay, so let's say out of 10 people, you have 40% of the people are qualified and you can get through and they actually have some sort of resource, right? And out of that, right, we can generate an average of $1,100 an application. I'm not saying it'll stay that, it's what it is now, okay? So that means these people would generate from there $4,400 in sales, right? From 10 people coming in, which, I mean, that'd give traffic guys an erection right there, a boner, as I like to say. But if you do this, right, 10 people generate this, and then you do that times 4 weeks in a month, right? You say that there is what, 17,600, right, dollars in sales. And let's say that your commissions from that, depending on where you're at in the comp plan, they're going to vary, they're going to range between a couple of things, right? But let's say that your income is, going to be around the 50% mark for all the sales that you're doing, okay? So what this would do here is month 1, that would actually hit you through that rank month 1. But month 1, you'd push up to the rank where you'd be earning about 50% on all the sales you're bringing in. We're talking after your first sale, right? And this would vary a little bit. But that would be like a little under $9,000. So we'll just say month 1, that would be a little bit less than $9,000. I'm writing sideways now in a month, right? Month 2 would be more, right? So right there, very simple formulaic way of running through numbers, right? That'll help you construct a plan. Now, does that mean that that's going to stay there and that's going to be there on all the numbers? No. I mean, the thing is with numbers is they work like that. Like, for example, let's take a roulette table. Now, roulette's gambling. We don't gamble, right? But it's a good analogy because, like, people make assumptions with gambling that are totally weird, right? Yeah, because they've never done a lot of math in their life and they think the universe works like they think it works rather than actually check it, right? And so, like a roulette table, you've got black and you've got red, right? And it's like just under 50% of the time, it's going to land on either black or red, right? But it's not actually 50%. It's just under. It's actually the house is an edge, depending on the table, of 2 to 4%, right? Might be a little high, 4.5%. Well, what that means is over 100 spins, right, you would lose 8% of your money if you were betting the same all the time. That's actually what it means. It means if you spend $1 million, you're going to lose 8% of it on the roulette wheel. That's called the house edge. That's why casinos make so much freaking money. It's because they have an edge in math, right? And so what people do is they you know, put all their chips on red, and then if they lose, they double it. If they lose, they double it, and they lose, they double it. Now, if you do that, right, you'll actually win most of the time. If you have an unlimited bankroll, you'll actually probably win all the time. But occasionally, there will be a time where you have 30, right, that hit black in a row. And if you double one coin 30 times, it's a lot, right, of a bankroll you'd have to be able to sustain that. And then the 31st, if you sustained it, then you'd get all your money back and make like $2, right? My point is with this is when you're looking at numbers, you want to look at them over a consistent period of time, right? So your goal on an outcome, normally in any metric, over a period of about 100 of that metric happening, the outcome will normalize. And what that means is you'll have predictable numbers within about 100. It's not always true, but normally it's true. So if over the course of a month you bring in 100 members, it'll normalize usually, right, to whatever the metric is that's running across all the numbers consistently, right? So what I want you to do is from that, assume, right, that you can bring in a certain amount of people. That was so confusing. Why did I say that? I just took something really simple and made it confusing, totally on accident, but I just listened to myself. That made sense to me. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to everybody on here. Some of you, though, you thought that was genius, right? There's like 4 of you, and the rest of you are like, what the hell is he talking about, right? So let's bring this simple again. Figure out how many people a day you need to bring in for your numbers to average the income that you want. I just showed you an example, okay, of how you could construct a $9,000 a month income. And you could take that example, scale it back, scale it up to meet yours. So let's say you want to make $3,000 a month. What you do is you just take this whole thing, you divide it into 3, and rather than 10 people a day or 10 people over a week, you'd bring in 3 people a week, right? If you wanted to make that $20,000 a month, rather than 10 people in a week, you'd make that 20 a week, right? And these guys could bring in 20 people a day. They know how to scale things, okay? Does that help everybody on here? And then what you do with new people is help them go through the acceleration training. So real quick here, because I was just really confusing on accident. I apologize, by the way, for everybody who's normal on here. Is I'm going to pop on to the link and just check if there's any questions. I will take a couple of questions. I'll tell you guys what to do, and then we'll call it a night. And we'll send an email out when the acceleration training is live. And we got a bunch of cool stuff coming down the pipe this week. So hold on, let me open this up. Right, hold on. That's funny. All right, yeah, you're going to the casino. Yeah, it's funny. So people are like, yeah, it's like, oh my God, that's brilliant, the one person, right? So in any case, if you're confused, it's fine, don't worry about it. But any questions, if there's any question here, let me know, and then I'll tell you guys what to do next. Anybody here, questions? Anything that you've got on your mind, you want to ask about something that's related to how you make money? And if not, I'll tell you what to do next. No questions. Well, there's a delay. So I'm going to start talking, and then I'll answer the question if a good one pops up, okay? And I'm just going to start talking because there's no questions. People are now thinking about that. What does he mean about the roulette table? How can I beat the casinos? Albert Einstein said you can't beat a roulette table. And so I would listen to the genius there. So in any case, if you go here, right, on the video, there's a link that says submit your application. And then there's a link that says not a member here, join for $1. So what I want you to do is if you're in, okay, go ahead and submit the application and just fill it out. And that'll give you the opportunity to go through the process. And just answer the questions honestly. There's only a few of them there. And the application will look a little bit different when we finish the acceleration training. But that's what you want to do. You can get a chance to meet Carrie, and also upgrade your commissions. What I encourage you guys to do, if you're on here, if you're in Empower, is upgrade to the top level, buy everything. And what we're going to be doing is just optimizing all the parts of our process in order to help you make more money. So your job in this process is to do the daily shortcut and bring more people in. My job as the owner of Empower, and our job as the leadership here, is to bring ideas together to make sure that what you do is maximized to the highest extent possible so that your time is well spent and you get more leverage. Because one of the things that I really convey well in that acceleration training I want everybody to watch it, is that when you see all the people working together to help you do things, you understand why working together like this is much better than doing things alone. It's actually not possible to do this stuff alone. Okay, so right there below, submit your application. Not a member yet, click here to join for $1. And yes, there will be a replay. Guys, let's go make the best year ever. It's okay if you do armpit sweat webinars, they still sell. And if you're not an Empower Network, just join. And even if you think the sweaty armpits is gross, it's okay. You can have air conditioning on in your house when you get on and you're a leader, and you don't have to live like this. I just like having windows open. It's a little hot and I enjoy it. And so I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for what we're doing, and expect an email in the next couple of days when the new training is live. Appreciate y'all. Let's end the broadcast.